Go. Hello and welcome back to Topic of the Day, the stupid show that I make with my stupid friends, and we talk about things for a set amount of time. We don't Google, we don't do anything, we just speak our minds and muse on whatever the topic is. I am Kiri, as we established last time. I'm joined by Tom
Hello.
and Brandon.
Hello.
And today's topic is Dragon Ball. Any takers?
Brandon, I think you should start us off on this one.
Well, as our resident expert on Dragon Ball, I've got to say I think it's very good. I very much enjoy it. It's comedy. I think it's very bold to make a YouTube series so silly and over the top, and it's very popular as well. I just think I especially like the voices. Very fine voice work. I like the Japanese style. I mean, it's not Japanese based, obviously, but I do very much like the style. I think Team Four Star, in case you didn't know, creators of Dragon Ball, did an outstanding job. They've made a brilliant, very funny YouTube series.
All right, thank you, Brandon.
Thanks. Good input. That's about all he has.
Yeah,
And it's not even on the actual Dragon Ball. It's on a fan-based comedy, as they say in every episode, called Dragon Ball Abridged. Very funny stuff, but it's not the actual story, is it? Tom, what do you think of Dragon Ball?
I really like Dragon Ball. I don't think it's the best story-wise. I don't think it's perfect, but it's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's just like a fun show.
I know it's made by Akira Toriyama. It's from.
Have you heard about his dinosaur?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
The intro lyrics are just bullshit.
They're amazing.
Yeah, but they
Brandon,
don't
if you
really
don't
make
know, I'll
sense.
just have to explain. In the lyrics to the opening of Dragon Ball, I can't remember the exact words, but it's something like, "I've got a T-Rex. I've trained him to balance on a ball," or something like those are the words. It's just random crap like that. It's so good.
So Dragon Ball, the actual series, is about T-Rexes balancing on balls.
Not justifying it with a response. Yeah, go on, Chris.
Yeah, so what else is there to say? It's about this kid Goku, who is a super strong kid with a tail. He is approached by a girl named Bulma, who's from a very rich and very wealthy and influential family, who makes this super technology. all
And
that kind of
she's the
stuff.
one with all the Rule 34, yeah?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they go on an adventure to find Dragon Balls, which are these 7 magical orbs that, if you gather them together, you can summon a magical dragon that would grant any wish.
Mm.
And that's
Pretty good.
basically like the opening premise of the story. It goes way out of proportion over time, of course.
Yeah, like especially in Dragon Ball Z, it kind of ramps up.
Yeah.
It's like, no longer is he just a weird kid. He's now an alien.
Yeah, and he also has a
So
brother.
Yeah, and he's gone pretty quickly.
Was
Yeah.
he not explained to be an alien in the first series, or?
No, that came
No.
in about
was
midway through the story, I would say. Maybe a little bit earlier than that. I think it's like, in the manga, it's book 18 or something, and someone will probably correct me on that. Where Raditz, his brother, comes from outer space, and he needs Goku. Originally Goku was sent to planet Earth to just kill everyone, because that's what they do. The Saiyans, which is the race that Goku is part of, they send someone capable to a planet, and they just wipe out the entire civilization of that planet, and they sell it to the highest bidder afterwards.
What, just... I was going to say, what, just for fun? Just for, like, fucking...
For
lols?
money.
Yeah, for money, because, money talks. And
So, hold on, are you saying the Dragon Ball, copied the Slovene from Doctor Who?
That came out, 20 years later?
Well, you see, you say that, but preemptively copied it.
because
I don't know
everything
if
is
the Slovene were
timey-wimey.
in- I don't know if Slovene were in old Doctor Who, to be fair.
They were.
Okay, they were a new thing. Okay.
Well, Doctor Who's a time traveler, so obviously it could be copied. You know.
So Dragon Ball, like just moving off of Doctor Who.
Yeah, Dragon Ball has a major following. I think it was basically the show when it became an anime, an animated series. I think that was what really made the Western world aware of like Japanese cartoons in general. It was like
Yeah.
a big breakthrough for anime and manga
least
in
that-
the world.
At least that generation.
It was on Toonami, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Cartoon
Okay,
Network
yeah.
made there's a company named Viz Media in the US that's basically had like the rights to translate and dub Dragon Ball since it was released, more or less, and they kind of brought it to Western audiences with English voice actors, of course. And that kind of I think it was like late 80s, early 90s, something like that.
Z or the original.
Z.
Z
Oh.
was like 80s, I think it started getting aired, and then I think they brought the original after that or something.
Yeah, it might
know,
have
it
started
wasn't
with C because Z was more like fighting and
Yeah.
going to space and adventure and action, and they probably thought that would work better on an American audience. And then the original Dragon Ball series was later translated.
I
And
think that's the
also,
case.
there's also like a spin-off series made called GT, which
Yep.
everyone agrees on is the worst.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking bad,
It's like
in my opinion.
and
People might like it.
just recently,
You're wrong.
Dragon Ball Super was released, which is a new series
yeah,
where they kind
Dragon
of
Ball Super.
continue the story from where it left off in Dragon Ball Z, and that's the first animated show where, like, the first animated Dragon Ball that Akira Toriyama has been working on at all.
Yeah,
Because
but he's a part of.
I think I might be paraphrasing here, but he kind of said like he was done with Dragon Ball when he was done when he was done writing the manga, and
Yeah.
then he sold the rights to the animated series and it became like a huge hit. And then at some point, I don't remember what it was. I think it was the live action film called Dragon Ball Evolution. Is it?
Yes.
Terrible film.
Awful film.
Oh, just-
I think it's one of the worst films ever.
I
It
think
is
I've
one of the
seen
worst I've ever
one of the
seen.
Dragon Ball films as a kid. I think I watched.
I think there's
one of
only
them.
the one live action.
Yeah,
one.
that's the only live action one.
Wait, hold on. Oh, shit. Wait, wasn't there a modern one? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that is the one.
Yeah,
we're
it's
talking
okay.
more recent than
Yeah,
the show,
I've seen
I can
that.
tell you
I've
that.
actually, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Not as a kid. I saw that as an adult because it's an
It's
awful film.
woeful.
It is atrocious. Like,
Most
I
people
don't-
just agree on it being terrible. And after Akira Toriyama saw this, he was basically like, "Okay, I need to set some shit straight here." So he got himself involved in the animations. Just after that, the first film where he was like director or he was consultant or something was like basically where Dragon Ball kind of came back onto the scene in recent times. I think it was like 2014 or 15, where Battle of the Gods Dragon Ball was released.
It's the movie where they introduced Beerus, correct?
Yes, they introduce Beerus and Wiz, who are like the god of destruction and his angel liaison kind of thing. And after that, they also made Resurrection of F, which is the second film that they made, which is basically one of the main antagonists, or at least the most famous antagonist, I would say, which is Frieza comes back. He is resurrected, and they fight him again. And from there, they made Dragon Ball Super, which is, as I said, a completely new show, where the first few like story arcs of Super was basically like a longer version of the films. So they kind of like retell the story of Battle of the Gods and Resurrection of F,
Yeah.
and then they go into like uncharted territory now. But it really feels much better in quality of storytelling, at least, because you can really like tell that he's back
Is
in the
this
mix, kind of thing, and he's started working on the show again.
so? Is this better than the original Dragon Ball series and Dragon Ball Z, or
Oh,
is it better than the films, the previous films?
it's better than the live action film, I can tell you
I
that.
mean, yeah,
That some of the Dragon Ball films are a little off the rails and not and might be not great because of it, in my opinion.
I mean, I feel like
But
I feel like at least by reputation and from what I watched as a kid, because I watched Dragon Ball enough as a kid. I think most people did. Uh, it has a reputation for being incredibly over the top, and I don't know. I
oh
would
yeah,
almost
oh
say
yeah.
deliberately so.
I
Like
think
even
they
more so
know.
than most anime, because anime in itself tends to be over the top. But
I mean, I've shown you when he goes Super Saiyan 3 and he just screams for like 3 minutes.
yeah, there's a lot of screaming in Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
From what I know, I recently did some reading on this topic, and I know it's kind of like it's not really cheating. It's just like I actually have an interest in this series because it's one of my favorite anime. I recently discovered that there was such a high like request for more Dragon Ball episodes. So the animated show was at one point they were coming so close to the manga that they were basically like only a few chapters behind.
Hmm.
And because of that, they had to like start to stretch out specific parts where they decided, okay, we'll go one episode per chapter. And this is from Shonen Jump, and Shonen Jump they have weekly releases on chapters of whatever manga they are currently viewing, um, and the whole thing was basically they were like 9 chapters behind, so they had to like start stretching out the material a lot because an episode.
Otherwise, they'd overtake it.
Yeah, basically. So a chapter of Shonen Jump, I think it needs to be 17 pages long. It's supposed to be like 17 pages long. And if I am correct, Shonen Jump is basically like a magazine of different manga that are presented, and it's like the top 15 mangas that are currently in Japan or something like that. Um, Long series, most of them, as far as I know. And basically, like, so they were waiting, like, each week they were waiting for a new chapter, and it was only 17 pages long, and in fighting scenes and stuff like that, 17 pages isn't a lot. So they didn't have all that much to work with, which is basically like they have this, I think it's like a 9 or 10 episode long part of the story that's very famous because Frieza and Goku are fighting, and Frieza says Namek only has 5 minutes left, and it's basically like 9 or 10 episodes, and you can
It's a
tell,
lot
of
more
course,
than
that
5
that's
minutes.
a 3 hour long fight that's supposed to be a 5 minute long part of like in the story it's supposed to be 5 minutes, but in the actual
Yeah.
series it was 9 episodes
See,
long, which is
is
basically
that,
3 hours.
is that translation problem or something like that? Because somebody at some point must have realized, okay, he specifically says 5 minutes, and
No,
this
they
goes on for a good couple hours longer. So maybe we should cut out the line where he says 5 minutes, or
they just didn't have the material to make it, and they were making it as fast as they could because
but
it
then
was
why
so
say
popular.
5 minutes?
Because the story says 5 minutes. I don't fucking know. I wasn't there.
Speaking of that fight and something you touched upon earlier of Frieza being probably the most well-known Dragon Ball villain, would you say? Him or maybe Vegeta at that point?
I would say Frieza is as like for most people. I think even people who's just like they're updated on pop culture stuff, but they're not actually updated on anime or stuff like that. They will know stuff like this isn't even my final form,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and the memes and the whole Namek story arc is the longest, is the biggest, and I think I could like pretty confidently say it's the most popular story arc.
I mean,
Uh,
I know who Fraser is, and
To be
Like,
fair, you've watched Dragon Ball.
I mean, I've watched the bridge,
which tells
yeah,
you.
but I knew before that as well.
Okay,
You
yeah.
know,
Um,
it's
I was gonna
part of
ask,
his
do you
zeitgeist.
think Frieza is so well known, so popular simply because of how long the Namek arc is?
well,
Or do you think it's like he's actually like a pretty good villain?
he is the
I mean, I
most
think
like
he's good.
terrible one, I would say, because he's so cold. Like he doesn't really care. He's basically slaughtering people, and he is the one who's kind of like the mastermind behind the whole destroy a civilization to take their planet. That's his gig.
Yeah, that's
like
him.
the
His
Saiyans are
his
part of it.
soldiers are
But,
employees.
yeah, and it's like the Saiyans are part of his army. And he's basically like more or less conquering the entire the entire galaxy at that point. And
No one can touch him.
also, like, I think it was a very conscious choice to choose him to be the one who's resurrected, because as we know, Cell, who is another Dragon Ball villain, he is also like he's made from one cell, and he was originally created. You know.
Yeah.
So they could just say, "Oh yeah, it's the resurrection of C instead of resurrection of F." So I think they made him, or they used him specifically because they knew he was a popular villain and they wanted to have him back.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
And he also has the biggest he has the biggest entourage. You know, he has the biggest group of people. You have his like closest acolytes kind of thing, the two other dudes that he always has with him, and he has the Ginyu Force as well.
Yeah. I only remember Dodoria.
He has
Yeah,
a
Dodoria. I
full
never
group
remember
of-
the other guy's name, but I remember Dodoria, and
I
and you have
remember
the Ginyu Force with like the whole
He has
gang.
he has a full squad of weirdly effeminate bad guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Each
that's.
one more weirdly effeminate than the last.
I think it's kind of like because they are, in a lot of it, it's kind of like they're parodying the style of the time. You know, the '80s style with like the flaring two big shoulder pads and all that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of like
Yeah.
a reflection on how society dressed and how society acted, and like being cool was like doing stupid dance moves. And I think he just like took all of that, he bundled it in, and he just parodied reality, kind of reflecting it. And it's also like if you look at like Goku's gi and stuff like that as well, it's not just because it's like, oh yeah, this is the straight up the normal wear that any martial artist would use. It's also kind of like big V-neck, no sleeves. They wanted him to look cool, so they went with
Yeah,
like
they
a
wanted him to
cool
look
style for him.
badass.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like over the top V-neck with like a shirt underneath and like very bright colors. Even though the manga wasn't colored, they also had a lot of like colored art for it, and he was like brightly colored in blue and orange, making it his like style and his theme. And you know, they have the punky hair and everything. It's very much, I think it's very stylized to reflect on like 80s wear, 80s popular styles and stuff like that. I think it's a very conscious choice.
Yeah.
I mean, the hair of Dragon Ball alone has achieved I don't know, like meme
mean,
status, I guess.
It's clearly, as you can see, their hair has ascended.
Yeah, it does defy gravity quite a lot.
To be fair,
Lots of
it's usually
hairspray.
the Saiyans that do that. There are a couple that don't, like Yamcha, but it's usually the Saiyans.
So Saiyan's hair is confirmed to defy gravity. It has the abilities
Well,
of.
I mean,
Say-
I can't think of a male Saiyans that doesn't.
Saiyan hair is also kind of weird because they actually go into the details of it that they can't really change it because it grows to a certain size or to a certain length and then it just stops growing. Beards and
Yeah.
mustaches are different, but specifically their hair will only grow to a certain length and it will just stay that way throughout their lives.
Yeah.
And that's rough. Like,
So that, they don't need to have their hair changed.
Yeah, so that's why they
Everyone
always
else's
look
does,
the
though.
same. Yeah, because
Well, no, not Tien, I'll be fair.
well,
Or
he is
Piccolo.
bald though. Both
Or
of them actually.
Or Kami.
No, you're just being stupid.
All of the ones that have no hair. Theirs tends to stay the same.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a really fun show. I really enjoy it quite a lot. It's fun to rewatch, but it's also very fun to kind of like try and skip as much as possible. That was
Yeah,
actually
it's silly. It's silly how.
See,
That-
I've always thought of a show though, if you have to skip like large chunks of it, like if large chunks of it are just nothing, then I don't know. I'm not sure you could consider the show. I'm not sure I could consider the show good overall. Like, you know,
but it's at the same time, like to be
Okay.
fair, they were having a hard time making episodes, so you know that
I mean,
that
but
was
that
part
doesn't
of.
excuse like subpar content. It's still
It's-
subpar content.
It's still a pretty popular series, and it's
Oh,
still
no, I'm not
sold
denying it,
quite
I'm
a
just-
lot. You know,
Again, I haven't seen it. I don't think it's particularly fair for me to like comment on it. I'm just saying, if a show you have to skip like I don't know, like 30% of it or like 40%, then maybe just that's not that good, you know?
but it's with anime in general. You will see a lot of filler. They talk about it a lot, and for anyone who doesn't know, filler is basically episodes, usually that diverts from the original story. Very often because of problems like manga, the author can't make content quickly enough. So the anime kind of has to stop, which is one of the major issues you will have with being like an anime, like doing anime, because in anime they make content based on the manga as close as they can do it, but they will
Is
also
all-
have some trouble kind of like keeping up with it.
Is all anime based on manga? Is that like
Not
part
all.
of being an anime?
Not all.
Most.
Yeah,
Most though,
Yeah, quite a lot of it
like
because
a lot of it.
Japan, as most know, is like they have the most avid readers of comic books in general. They're like most of the population read some kind of comic book or manga, as they say, and that's why being like a cartoonist is actually, or a graphic noveler or whatever you want to call it, it's actually quite
It's an alright gig.
yeah, it's a prestigious gig because it doesn't make a lot of money, as far as I know. Because, as with all publishing, it's a very terrible business in many situations. It's not like you will make a lot of money. Even
Publisher
in
might though.
even in Western, like in the Western world, you have like, if you publish a book, you're the prestigious author because you made this incredible work of art. But at the same time, you're not the one who's going to make tons of money off of the movie that was made out of your book.
unless you specifically have a clause, and if you're a bit business savvy and you somehow get it done. I think Rowling had a thing like that. Like some
Probably.
kind of
Yeah,
Yeah,
but as we all
uh,
know, she wrote books to make money. So let's
Yeah.
face it, she was already money grabbing.
Hmm.
Or is it money grubbing?
I feel like
Either
both
or.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So what manga artists tend to they tend to hold like the same status. They get all of the fame, all of the glory in a way, but none of the actual wealth, none of the earnings,
Well,
or little of it.
with most artists, they are struggling. Artists in general are struggling people. They will not be the ones who make tons of money. That will be done in corporate buildings, and you know, the big leagues will make the big money, the big bucks, and you know, anyone who's like artists and authors and stuff like that, you'll make a decent living. I'm not saying you're going to go around being a poor, starving artist no matter what you do, but in many cases, it won't make you rich. You will be doing something that you love doing, which I think is basically what they are going for. They're not going for the fame and the glory and all that. They want to make a book, and they want to make people happy by reading their books, and that's what they're going for. And if they can make enough money to make ends meet and maybe a little more, like any successful business person would do, like making above average wage, then I think, yeah, sure, they do it for that. They make it so that they can make a living out of what they love to do, kind of. And I think it's the same for cartoonists in Japan. But anyways, the point of that, I think, was that, you know, when I watch anime, I always have like, oh, someone will recommend it to me because I never really go around browsing anime. Um, then it'll be like, okay, so when I watch it, especially if it's a long series, like if I know I'm going into something big, I will always check like, is there a filler list and can I just follow it? Because even though a lot of filler is good, it will never be as good as the actual story. So maybe it's something they learned from, for example, Dragon Ball. That, oh yeah, instead of like trying to take what material we have and stretch it out as far as we can, we should
No
yeah, we
material
should
that
just add some content that is relevant but not progressive for the storyline of the main plot.
I mean, but if they're not willing to get off of the manga, if they're not willing to get off of the core thing at all, then surely the filler is by its very nature going to be I don't really want to say pointless because pointless isn't like yeah, but like pointless. It's gonna be just fluff, just nothing.
Oh yeah,
That's
Like
what it
there's
is, yeah.
that's
you
what it
can't.
is.
But
Also, what
then
do you mean not want to get off the manga? Filler usually is off the manga. That's the point. They're waiting
No.
for more manga.
I this is I'm just talking about the fluff thing. Like I mean, if you don't want to like change your character arcs or stuff like that, if you don't want to change the way a character is perceived from the manga to the TV show,
Yeah.
then that like inherently means that the filler is going to be. I mean, I guess you could use it to cement the character more, but then
Filler
you're
has
getting.
no character development usually.
Well, like it doesn't have character development, but it will have. It could sometimes help you relay something that comes later. I'm going to talk about something that will have some spoilers in it, so for whomever is concerned about like old Naruto stuff, like just skip ahead a few minutes because I'm going to talk about something that happened in the Naruto anime. Um,
We'll put a timestamp in the description or something.
yeah, we'll try and do that at least.
We'll say we are.
Yeah, we'll say we'll do it, so we'll cover our asses. Anyways, in the Naruto. In the Naruto anime, they have a lot of filler. It's like famous or infamous for their filler because all of the filler is really, really bad.
Well,
Most of the filler is really, really bad.
I don't know. I don't know much about like Naruto. I know more than like the layman, but isn't the Kakashi Obito stuff? Isn't that filler?
Not
And isn't that
not
pretty
really
good?
because it's created by the actual writer.
Nah, okay, I didn't know.
And it actually does do something for the story.
Didn't know that.
But anyways, what I'm talking about right now is in the Naruto story, one from the not main cast but kind of main cast, a sensei called Asuma, he dies during this story arc, in one of the story arcs, and it's a major loss, and especially for those who have read the manga, and for me, it was like, oh my god, he died, because it was kind of like the first major death in the series, and it was very surprising. And in most of the like, I really liked that character. I thought it was really cool. He didn't have like a big appearance in the series, but he was a really fascinating character, and he was the son of the third Hokage. He had some ties to some of the more interesting characters of the series, and he's killed off during the series, and they made, because of problems with keeping up with manga and not wanting to do any mistakes, they made a filler arc, and in this filler arc he plays a major role. He's like one of the main cast in that specific filler, and that is set just before the story continues where he dies. So they made the filler to be like, okay, so we will make you as a viewer invest in this character. We'll make him cool, we put him in the center of attention, and then we'll kill him to make it into a, like, we'll have you get stronger ties to this character just before we'll kill him off, so it has more sentimental value that he dies. And for me, it was terrible, because I thought the filler arc that he was like the main dude of and stuff like that, I thought it was terrible, because I thought it was just a shit. It had one of the best openings of the show, but it was still like one of the shittiest fillers in my opinion. But at the same time, it was like, for me, I read the manga, so I feel like I cared more about him to begin with, because
Yeah.
he doesn't play a major role in the manga either, but I just like, oh yeah, I remember him as a really cool character. And they just kind of like, they made it so obvious. I
Was
basically,
there a
when I,
lot of foreshadowing?
Was he one of those
No.
characters who's like, oh no, he's perfect?
Can't
in
wait
every
to go
way.
back to my wife and kids next arc.
I'm only 3 days from
Well,
retirement.
well, he does actually have a kid on the way
Of course he does.
when he dies.
How close is he to retirement?
They haven't talked about retirement at all for him.
3 days.
But my point is, you can make filler mean something, just not to the main plot.
I mean-
it doesn't progress the main plot, but it does actually give you something in return. Because I'm sure a lot of anime watchers thought that was a great way to like introduce a character, and then they just kill him off, and they thought that was a good idea. Or they felt like, oh my god, Asuma died, he's so cool.
Did it do a Walking Dead thing where it like clearly tries to emulate other shows, and it will just introduce a load of characters and then just be like, oh look, here's multiple characters, and
Don't name any of them if you're going to spoil
I
it.
won't, and then it will just kill them all off within like a couple of episodes.
I don't-
Episodes.
I don't
And it's
think
just
that
like,
was
well,
what
that was
happened.
meaningful. That character had a point. Like,
I don't think that was what they were going for, but at the same time, it's kind of like that's a way to use filler, at least, to make it worth something, I guess.
Yeah, that
Um,
it wasn't like The Walking Dead. It
wasn't like The Walking
that.
Dead, no.
The character had been
Um,
in the show for a good while.
that's
Since the
alright.
beginning, actually.
Yeah, it was pretty early on.
But at the same time, I thought it was like, okay, I see why you did this. I just don't agree with it. But that was me, you know.
I mean, I think filler has a very different meaning in the anime community to outside the anime community. Like, when you talk about filler, to me, I always assume it's like filler by its nature is bad because it's just trying to fluff the time. In like a film or something like that, there's no character development, there's no charm, it's not progressing the story in any way, it doesn't explain a character more. So I've always thought of filler as that, and that's how I think it is seen outside of the anime community. Like, when most people, by most reviewers of Western media and stuff like that, will say, it's it's just all filler. They clearly wanted to get the certain length for whatever they wanted to go
Yeah.
for. Like, they clearly wanted it to hit an hour, so they've got like a 5-minute scene of somebody walking down a corridor, or
I think there's a lot of similarities to that, in that oftentimes there's little to no character development. It is usually as fluff so that they can have the manga can get ahead, wait for more stories, but it's for a different reason. It's not trying to hit a time limit. It's trying to wait for more story, and also sometimes they do kind of what's it called? Like you said earlier, cement a character more.
Yeah.
In certain filler, like we've said, a lot of filler is considered bad.
But not all.
Not all,
Mm.
but most of it, I would say, is generally at least considered to be bad.
Yeah, most of it. I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but another example of like what I would call at least good filler in some way is that there is another show. I'm just going to talk quickly about that as well, because let's not stay on topic. That you have a show called Fullmetal Alchemist, which is also an anime. It's also
Don't spoil
based
that, by the
on.
way. I
No, I'm
watched
not going to spoil it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
haven't
going to
seen
say
it, so-
something about it. I'm not going to spoil it. Don't
Good.
worry, guys. Not spoiling.
I'm panicking.
For me, it's basically like it was like they started making the show long before the manga was done. And when they got to the point when they got to the point where the manga kind of like they didn't have enough to go on, they made their own ending to it. So about I don't know if it's 2/3 through or if it's like halfway through. It's a long time since I watched it. They kind of like just branch off on their own written story of that show, and they've done that in a few others as well, where it kind of like it starts. It's the same as the manga to a certain point, and then they change it. And with Full Metal Alchemist, you also have the original, like an anime based completely on the manga. So when the manga was near done, they made a new Full Metal Alchemist anime called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which follows the manga. And I watched both. I found Full Metal Alchemist long before it was done. I started reading the manga after I finished the actual the actual anime, and then I heard like, oh yeah, there's coming a new anime that's going to do the original story as it is in the manga, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. I want to watch that as well. And after watching both, I've ended up being like, okay, Brotherhood is better. But a lot of people disagree. A lot of people like the original story better.
Sorry, Brotherhood's the one that follows the
The manga. Yeah.
manga.
Full Metal Alchemist is the first one. Brotherhood follows the manga because it's released after it finished.
And it's made by the same studio, so it feels very natural. It feels very similar in many ways, and the arcs and the stories that are the same they're different. So they actually made I think they made an effort to make them somewhat different, but it's still like the same type of animation and everything. So there is even like some people who say you have to watch this show up to a certain point and then you have to switch over to the other series because they feel like they've found the perfect way of watching this anime. So there's actually a big following of the original series as well, which isn't the same as the manga, and they like that version better.
I mean,
and that's also like half of the series is filler technically, but it's not actually filler either because they're still following a story and all that stuff.
I mean filler in the anime community sense.
Yeah, but this is anime.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like clarifying. I mean, I feel like a show that I think has found a happy middle. I'm not really 100% sure yet. Time will tell. I can't assume it's going to dip in quality. Is Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones is now entirely off books, but they basically the creators of the show spoke to Martin and kind of he told them the ending, told them how various arcs wrap up, and obviously not too much detail, but enough that they could finish the show in the same way. And so they've progressed using that. Like where it's probably different from the book in certain ways, in like the time things are going to take, and maybe in the way certain characters are going to move and stuff like that. But it's still ultimately going to have the same ending, assuming Martin doesn't change anything, which some people are speculating he will, but others aren't. So,
is there any evidence from changing it?
Like, no, it's more just
like, hey, I'm going to change the ending, lol, now that they're writing it. Like, what? Or is it just people think he's Loki?
People think that because of the way the book seems to be leaning in a certain way that's different from the way the show's leaning. Like the book is placing emphasis on certain characters more than the show is. Like a character who's just been introduced in the show has already been a major character in the books for ages. So people are saying, well, this character, like the book readers who haven't seen the show are speculating, well, this character is going to play a major role in the things to come. Whereas show watchers are just like,
who's this nerd?
This guy's here now, and he's probably going to do something. So people are saying, like, is he going to lean in a different direction? Because otherwise it would just be time, like, wasted on a character who's going to, unfortunately, not play a big role in things.
Okay.
But I think generally, personally, I know, I think the consensus on the new Game of Thrones seasons are positive. Like, people do enjoy them.
Good for them. So Dragon Ball, I have a feeling Dragon Ball is going to be remembered for a good while. I hate to just cut you off, Brandon, but we went way off topic.
Oh, absolutely, but you know that's what we do, isn't it? What we're supposed to do, at least.
Link Game of Thrones to anime, and I think we can be proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could say that Dragon Ball is the Game of Thrones of anime.
No, it isn't.
It isn't. It isn't.
Should we perhaps wrap it up? I feel like we're ready to wrap this up. So, final thoughts, because I like this segment, just doing final thoughts. Tom, final thoughts?
Dragon Ball's great in my opinion. Like I said, the story it's not spectacular because of all the stretching out, but I mean, it's like a fun, silly show to watch. It's not something I take seriously.
Brandon?
I think, I mean, I haven't seen it. I can't speak for the show's quality itself, but I feel like the effect that Dragon Ball has had on the overall zeitgeist, on like the anime community, particularly, is going to live on for a very long time. And Dragon Ball is going to continue to be a thing, and it will continue to exist, at least in memes, for eternity.
So you know,
it has ascended to godhood.
It should be proud is for being in memes.
It should be proud for inventing the
Not
this
for
isn't
creating
even
a-
my final form.
Not over
It's
9,000.
over 9,000.
And I'm a firing Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
so
many.
many,
Man.
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it should be proud for the effect it's had on the culture overall.
Yeah. For me, it's as I said, it's one of my favorite shows. Not gonna animes. I'm not gonna change that opinion from this discussion.
Neither.
I do agree with the filler. Maybe it's too much, but there was also a manga, and that's not stretched out. That's actually really good. So you could read the manga and then just pick up at Dragon Ball Super, which is only an animated series as well, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And that is not very stretched out because they
It's,
make
it's
content.
almost like they're not trying to catch up to it.
Yeah, it's very strange. But anyways, this has been topic of the day, Dragon Ball. I am Kiri, and as I said, I'm joined by Tom and Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you to you guys.
Hello.
Thanks for all the feedback on the last episode.
Oh yeah. If you like this, or if you, as we've said before, don't hate, educate.
Or educate in a hateful manner.
Yeah, of course,
At
that
least,
also works, of course. Yeah,
If in the comments you could tell us how you found us, because I am confused by that. Because I thought, oh, this will be fun, the 2 people we speak to outside of this will watch it. And we hit 10 and I was surprised. And I think we got, I don't know what we're at.
almost 100 views.
90 odd. I
Yeah,
feel like.
91,
Yeah,
I think, the last one.
I hold to it. It's hacked. Like, one of you is cheated.
Doesn't matter. Thank you for the views, anyways, and thank
I'm
you for
paying
listening to
people
us.
in China to watch our videos.
Thank you for listening to us ramble about bullshit for like
Yeah.
almost an hour,
And be wrong.
and be wrong. So yeah, that's what I
I
was
mean, I
going
am
on with.
entirely wrong on everything I've said today.
This episode will be less wrong.
Yeah, less wrong than the last one, but still, Anyways, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Have